about moving on in your life, either to attend a university, to receive more specialized training like nursing, or to enter the workforce, how have faculty here at HAC helped you to be successful?
Approachability. It's always nice when you can go to a professor and say, hey, I need this recommendation when I do this. Would you be willing to do that? It's nice that I know I can email a professor and having a really good response with your email is really, really great. You get a good, within the week, an email back. That's been wonderful.
And the tutoring center, I think that's been helpful because I know that when I go to university, I may not have that. And I think it's great that, I think people take that for granted.
I also think the college success seminars, I know I attended one that Bailey did, and I attended one this semester also, and they were really helpful on note-taking, and I don't think you can hear that stuff enough. Like, even if it's the same information like, over and over again, I still go to the college success seminars, so.
I'll second that, absolutely. I did that in the second semester I was here, and it was a nice refresher. I'm a decent note taker, but there were tricks that I'd never even seen before presented there, and I loved it because it gave me a little less writer's cramp, I guess, because I press hard. But the other thing, I've had some professors in my major classes, the ones that I really need, mentor me, and I can go to them and say, all right, what class would benefit me here? How much work do you think I'm going to put into this? Or just for general questions. Now you can't mentor every single student that you have, but for me personally, having those few professors that I know I can trust for information, for opinions, for that type of thing, based on what my direct goal is in getting from here to there, is invaluable.
And I don't think it's just the professors. I think it's everyone on staff here. I know the first advisor that I had when I first came back to school, which is, at 50, that's a scary proposition. Okay, that wasn't an easy thing to do. She did a very good job of nailing it down for what I needed to do, what I needed to not do, and really set me up for success. And really put me on the right path, and made it well known that, hey, just come back in if you have any questions, kind of thing. Because I think she sensed my trepidation.
I think overall HAC, I'm getting ready to leave, and I also attended another semester at a city community college, and that experience was extremely different. You were your student ID number. It was a much more daunting experience, but at the same time, the sheer amount of volume they do with students is totally different than HAC. But HAC has that it factor, that thing that's really hard to put your finger on what HAC's really doing right. But I tell everybody, from the minute you walk into the door, from the cleaning lady to the welcome center, to your advisor, to admissions, to the librarian, the tutor center, I don't care who it is here, what role or job they fulfill, that person has been, has some charisma, has some accessibility. You don't feel like you're nobody. And I think that also then, for students like us who do care, it wants you to give back. It allows us to say, okay, this isn't just a means to an end. It is an experience. It is something. That's the beauty of community college. That's the allure that you get, that more accessibility in your education than just showing up, clocking in and clocking out, if you will. And for a lot of us non-traditional students, I'm a single mom with a baby, a toddler, and coming back with a newborn was overwhelming, but everybody else made the experience more possible for me. I could stay in school because professors would work with me. Again, communication on my part, saying, hey, I got a 3-week-old at home. I might have some issues. I'll keep up. Also there were times when I brought her to class. She was a good baby. I got lucky. A lot of people know my kid around here. It's just having that ability to say, you go somewhere where people think that your education is important. Your goals are important. They recognize that as students, a lot of us really want this, and they're going to match you for that. It's just HAC has that it factor where it really does make the ends meet for a good experience. And I get a valuable education, I get a valuable experience, and I feel like it's been possible to continue to go to school and achieve my goals.
Yeah, I came from homeschool school, so I didn't have any professors. I was pretty much self-taught through high school. And I know that I was really like nervous about coming here and shy about being sort of in with a lot of people and a lot of action going on. And I know the people that work here have been very nice and open, and even some of the people that I don't know or haven't had classes with have come to, I work at Rita's, and they've come to my window, and they actually know who I am just from seeing me around, and they've like talked to me, and that was really cool that they knew who I was, and they were just really nice professors here. So.
I will say one thing about the Learning Center. If you're teaching a subject where, you know, a lot of your students go to the Learning Center, it really helps to make sure you're on the same page with the tutors so that they, you know, because I'll go in for like math. And I'm the kind of student where I go to the tutor center because I might get a B on the next test and I don't want to get a B, I want to get an A. So, I mean, I'll go in and I'll say, this is the teacher I have. This is the test that we're doing. And, you know, so a lot of the times with the teachers I've taken, you know, they'll be right away, oh good, you know, we know how to help you, or that teacher. So just having that connection is really, really helpful that there's that kind of communication. It's great.
It's just another way to help us succeed. And I think from day one, and this is campus specific, this does not really apply to online, but when you walk into the classroom not knowing what to expect, I have not once had a professor not tell me what to expect in their classroom. And I value that because that helps me to balance the workload that I'm going to have here, the workload I have at home, the workload I have with family, those other types of things. It helps me to know what you expect from me. You don't have to hold my hand, but in that respect, it helps a person to succeed when they know that you got things under control. This is where your standards are set, and it's up to everybody else to meet those, obviously. But with every single teacher I've ever had here has been accessible. And we've said that several times throughout this whole panel. But when you know what's expected of you, when you have a professor that genuinely cares about your learning experience, genuinely cares about you as a person, and not just a number, like Hannah said, it makes the experience feel more like a family. It's going to be tough to leave here and go to a large institution. I mean, point blank, honestly, next semester is my last semester. I'm dreading it because I like the feel here that it's comfortable. It has nothing to do with the fireplace, although that helps.
Well, that's not to say that you have to like be buddy-buddy with everyone. I think there's a way to still keep, I like professional parameters. I'm a social person. I talk to everybody. Any professor who's ever had me or has met me remembers me. I'm just that person. But I also don't like to breach professionality a lot of times. I have a hard time doing that. But there's ways to define those parameters. Adequate syllabuses that break down what things are worth. Letting you know from day one, you're going to have X amount of quizzes, X amount of exams. These are the chapters on the exam. You're going to have this paper, this due. Those syllabuses are vital because if I get a paper dropped in my lap a month in, guess what? I have to restructure my entire time management, and time is not in my favor at all to get things done by the middle of the semester or a month in. So I think there's ways to do these things where you're not trying to be buddy-buddy with your students. I think that there's ways to do these things where, like I said, you don't push that bar back or you don't lower your standards to do it. I think sometimes there is that push to take the professionality out of things, and I think that there's that wonderful balance, like I said, that it's hard to describe, where a professor can make these things very accessible and still keep those boundaries in mind and approach students and just knowing a student's name. And I know it's hard, you guys have so much on you, but that's just knowing a student's name, taking the time, even if it's just 5 minutes, or saying, I don't have the answer, but I'll get back to you, or not waiting 2 weeks to answer an email. It's those little tiny things. I know it's a lot to keep track of, it's a lot to keep track of for us too. But for the students that are going to put in the work and are really going to excel, I think those really, at times, are the ones where I'm like, you got to remember, yeah, I need to send that person an email. I know she's really going to produce a good paper, but if I don't let her know, hey, there's been a change on the criteria or a change in the grading, then they're going to be a little more frustrated, maybe the student that doesn't care.
Any last comments?
I have a comment that
like really frustrated